we think of movies as so precious that we don't necessarily take a risk with just ourselves. You know, I read all these things, Dad, that it has to be in this format, it has to be this way, and I know it's expensive, and but you know, Sundance won't accept anything that's on DV. This is back in '98, and my dad said, "Oh well, fuck Sundance." And he goes, "It sounds to me like you're worrying about getting in, and you're not worrying about being good." And I think that being in this community here in Memphis, we just wanted to make good stuff and show it at local bars or rent out a theater or screen it on the side of a house. We all weren't necessarily thinking, will this be my ticket in or up? It is hard when you're writing a script these days to not see the future obstacles that you're going to be going up against. And that's the great thing about being young. And I don't necessarily mean young in age, but just new to it all. Because when you're new, you don't know about someone saying, yeah, Craig, we can't give you this much money because there's no stars in it, or it's predominantly African-American cast, and it doesn't travel internationally, which I would love to show people the data of this last weekend, because I always felt that was a rather like globally racist way to think of things, but that's another story. But just, of all these obstacles and all these doors that are being shut in your face when you've hit them. And so it's hard to get new again. It's hard to get to that place where you can say like, well, am I just going to write this and deal with the risk no matter what? And I remember I saw this movie called The Celebration by Thomas Vinterberg that blew my mind, because he had a video, he shot it all with a video camera that was like a one-chip video camera, but the movie was riveting and humorous and dramatic. And I was like, fuck, there's no excuse. It's really, can I create a story and can I create characters that are compelling? And all this stuff about me not having kind of the money or the tools is kind of me. I'm afraid. And I can't admit the fact that I'm afraid just to go off and make something, because we think of movies as so precious that we don't necessarily take a risk with just ourselves. But what I would also argue is that while I was making that Poor and Hungry movie, it was me, my pregnant wife, my sister-in-law, and my brother-in-law, who was more technically savvy. My sister-in-law would sit in our Chevy Caprice Classic before it got stolen, and we'd go to these like locations, and I would be like the producer going like, man, we got to get in there and we got to like tell this guy that he's got to be in our movie. And she would sit silently next to me, right, and be my supporter. Then we would try to build sets inside our shotgun house that we were living in, and there'd be a guy next door that was playing his music too loud. So I'd go over there with a 1/4 ounce of weed and say like, hey guys, can you maybe turn the music down just for the next couple of hours while I start shooting this movie? And then like when I edited, I couldn't edit and have my wall unit, my window unit air conditioner on at the same time, because it would blow out the circuit breaker. So I don't know if you're seeing where I'm going with this, but like, it's hustle and flow. Like I was living in hustle and flow. Like I'd have these times where like I was just so depressed, as like why the hell am I making this movie? No one's gonna see it anyway. And then my wife with her big old belly would come in with a big old dish of rice, and she goes, I just thought since you guys were watching Kurosawa last night, you may want this rice dish. And that's where I got like Taraji coming in with the lava lamp. It's like one fed the other. It created a water to go in the well. You know what I mean? And yeah. So when you're at this stage in my career, it's hard to be struggling with it, but the struggle really is what feeds you to become you. The movie that I'm mostly thinking of when I think about this script is Fiddler on the Roof. Fiddler on the Roof is a Jewish man, family man, Anatevka. He's got 3 daughters, and he loves tradition. He talks about how tradition means so much to his people, but then each daughter starts bending the traditions a little bit more, and he begins to wonder like, well, where is the line start and stop with tradition and customs if I'm going to move forward in a new world? When do I bend and when do I break as a father? And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of interesting because see, when I saw Coming to America, I was in high school, and now I have kids that are in high school. And Eddie is got 10 kids and a grandkid. He's in a different place than Akeem. And I was like, so Akeem actually in the story is like kind of like me and all of us when we're getting a little bit older. We start becoming King Jafar. We're closer to what the things that we thought we would never be, because we want peace. We want everything to work out. We want everything to be good. And we kind of struggle sometimes listening to our children and thusly listening to progress. And then you get into the fact of like, okay, then who is this movie for? And that's when we started referring to Coming to America as Black Star Wars. Because we knew that we probably were going to fall into the same issues that Star Wars lore fell into. Where is it for the fans of the original? Is it for fans of the original plus a new generation? Where does that start and stop? And know that no matter what you do, you're gonna get hate. You're gonna get hate. And that's been the thing to wrangle throughout the whole production and even through its opening this weekend. Sometimes you got to make a movie and not really care if people think it's to use a term that's really hot on Twitter at times, especially in this last weekend, trash, right? People are like, oh man, that movie's trash, right? Well, yeah, but you don't know that yet because time hasn't really told you if it's trash or not. God knows, like, I'm so surprised at how many people come up to me and say that Black Snake Moan is their favorite of my movie, that it touched them and everything like that. And be like, wow, because there were people that just straight up told me, like, you just made some garbage, back in the day. Same thing happened with Rudy. Like, here's this movie that is delightfully awful, and audiences ate it up. And they loved it. And even today, people didn't know of the contribution that Rudy Ray Moore made, but then they're seeing this movie that Eddie Murphy is now interpreting with it. So it's like, you got to kind of like stop treating it all so precious and make something with it with passion. And you never know, the horrible may one day turn into something transcendent and beautiful. You just don't know. And then John Singleton called me. He goes, hey man, Purple Rain's out on DVD, new commentary. You seen it yet? I was like, no. John, I don't know if you've heard, but like our third act is just a nightmare. It's a mess. Senna said it was awful, and and she's right. And then he's like, oh man, this is just, hey, they say it's a process, man. It's a process. You just gotta do the process. Go home, burn one, watch Purple Rain. The first 8 minutes of Purple Rain is the most perfect 8 minutes you will find in cinema. And I even throw The Godfather in, like, I would say Godfather's second. I think within the first 30 seconds, you see 2 to 3 tongues, right? So immediately it's declaring itself as sexy, right? The music begins, Dearly Beloved, and you go through Let's Go Crazy, right? And while you're in this movie, in this 8-minute, music is never stopping, right? And the choices that the director's making to be like behind the drink glasses going by, you're getting like this view of First Avenue where you're going like, man, this is a performance world. But Apollonia, while the music is coming into town, she gets into her house. That she gets into her shitty apartment. She looks out the window. There's the set piece of the whole movie. Everything is rhythmically timed to when you find out who the villain is. You find out who Morris Day is. He gets into his car rhythmically. The door shuts right with the music. And then continuity goes right out the window. Prince is on stage. Then he's back at home, blowing out his candles in his like basement, and getting ready to go to the club. He's back on stage. Then he's coming to the stage, right? In his motorcycle. People are cheering. And then by the time Apollonia breaks into the club, after she slams into that one girl with the white blonde hair, and she goes, I really want to be a singer. Maybe you could introduce me to the boss. Yeah, he's here. Come on this way. And while Prince is getting ready to do his big famous guitar solo with the backlight, you see her looking up at the stage, And then he gets up on the piano, and that light hits him, and you push in on Apollonia, and she's just going like, oh my God, who is he? You know what the movie's about. who the bad guy is, who the good guy is, who the love interest is, what she wants, what he's about, and the music never stopped. The song When Doves Cry in Purple Rain, I realized that during that montage, you started seeing scenes that you saw before and scenes that you hadn't seen. And so I came back and I told Billy Fox, like, John had me watch Purple Rain last night, and I think I know how to fix this third act. That's all Purple Rain. That's all like John telling me, calm the fuck down, watch a movie, and trust your process is going to reveal its answers. And every time I see that sequence, I always think like, man, John Singleton and Purple Rain saved this section of the movie for me.